Hi, I'm Maria Ingold. I'm a CTO in video technology, and I'm here at Connected Media IP at the NAB Show 2019. Joining me is Sascha Prüter, who is the Chief Product Officer of Vewd. Welcome.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
So how are you finding the NAB Show so far?
It's interesting. I checked out this morning not for professional reasons, just for geeking out. I checked out a lot of the production equipment, which is not my day-to-day job, but it's super
Fun?
interesting. Yes, it's a lot of fun.
That's exciting. Wonderful. So, given your day-to-day job, tell me a bit about Vewd.
Yeah, it's a little bit less about robots that handle cameras, but at Vewd, I think most people know us a little better under our old heritage name, which was Opera TV, and so know us from our browser history. So we were very early on bringing HTML to consumer electronics in the living room, starting with like the Nintendo Wii, the very first Philips Net TVs, and that has evolved over time. So our HTML5 SDK bringing content onto smart TVs and set-top boxes is still a core product of our portfolio, but we've been extending that quite a bit with end-to-end solution like Vewd OS for smart TV experiences, turnkey solutions for operators, and so on.
So, what differentiates Vewd?
I think a key aspect is the experience. Like I mentioned, we have been enabling the very first smart TVs that were on the market, the very first streaming consoles. But a big other differentiator, I think, is the experience both on the broadcast side. We work a lot with hybrid TV standards, HbbTV, ATSC 3.0, hybrid cast, and so on. Where we work close to the broadcast signal, close with the broadcasters, but then also bringing in that with the OTT world. So bringing in apps, enabling broadcasters, for example, and helping them to bring now their connected experiences onto consumer electronics in the living room. And operators in the last few years have appreciated that as well. So we've been working a lot with operators who have proprietary middlewares, deploying on cable networks, satellite, and so on. For them, OTT is something new, and having a partner like us who understands both worlds is always a little bit more comfortable for them.
That sounds good. So what are you showcasing here at NAB?
We are talking about a bunch of our products that we have been launching late last year, early this year. So timing is good. NAB to do that as a wrap-up and showcase all the products. I think one big topic for us is kind of the growth of various different platforms and how both hardware manufacturers as well as operators, how they can deal with this. So a lot of operators, for example, have like Linux set-top boxes out there, proprietary set-top boxes out there, now maybe Android set-top boxes out there. And with the growing lifetime of set-top boxes as well, like how do they manage all these all these different systems? They don't have the capacity to develop everything 3 times, 4 times. So with Vewd OS, our kind of experience solution or experience stack, we can enable them build a smart connected experience, no matter if they're on Linux, Android TV. They just develop that once and can deploy to all the different operating systems. And then we have been investing quite a bit in the very low-end hardware, so enabling legacy set-top boxes or extremely cheap hardware for emerging markets. We have a solution called Vewd Atom, which outsources a lot of the heavy operation on the device actually to the cloud. And so we can separate the video stream from the UI, from the presentation layer. We render the presentation layer in the cloud and send it down, but we don't touch the video signal. And then on the client, we stitch both together again. And that allows for very, very cost-efficient new devices or recycling very, very legacy connected devices in the home.
So I would guess with that, keeping the cost down is very useful for an emerging market, but some emerging markets also struggle with connectivity. Are you saying that you're appropriate for certain markets, or are you trying to address those issues?
So for one, we are not re-encoding the video, so the video is going down is the bulk of the bandwidth requirement anyway. So with rendering the presentation layer in the cloud, we are adding only a very, very low overhead of the anyway to be transported OTT video down to the device. But there are also some interesting combinations, like for example, cellular-enabled set-top boxes in the 4G space, which specifically now with the growing 5G topic, this becomes even more interesting. And if you can save specifically memory and CPU, GPU requirements on these very entry-level devices, the difference between a $30 set-top box and a $15 set-top box is obviously significant in certain markets.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've already sort of sneaking into the future, what can we look forward to in, say, the next year from you?
I think an interesting trend over the next few years, I think, to observe is if with kind of reduced margins in the pay TV space, where that money comes from and where the cost saving actually will go. And we are talking to a lot of operators who have clearly identified the set-top box as being a major capex and also OpEx investment. So it will be interesting in the coming years to see if, for example, more operators are actually moving their services and their experiences to smart TVs and trying to get rid of the set-top box completely. I think it's an interesting aspect. And then the other obvious trend, and also very visible here at NAB, is more and more content owners, operators launching or trying to launch their own OTT services, and how that will also drive dedicated OTT hardware. For example, cheap OTT dongles that are operator branded as kind of an entry-level solution. I mean, you see it in certain markets, like the UK already since years already, with Now TV having a branded piece of hardware, very affordable, and having where with Vewd Go we have a solution for that, like to get in a few weeks to market with a very affordable hardware and software combination without a lot of investment from the operator side. So we'll see if that actually will be a continuing trend, with operators actually going away from the managed set-top box or expanding the portfolio also into dedicated OTT devices, which leads to the last point that is interesting to observe, how this fragmented device ecosystem then will be managed. If operators have to have cost-effective solution both for the entry level and the high end, this will just fragment the device ecosystem even more. How do you manage that? And that's an interesting question.
Well, I look forward to seeing how Vewd answers these questions in the next year and in the next few years. So thank you so much for joining us this year at Connected Media IP, and I hope to see you next year and find out more.
Thank you. I would definitely look forward to that.